everyone, today I'm going to show you a few of my cheats for Nalbinding. So Nalbinding is all well and good with natural wool if you have the resources to get natural wool. Sometimes it's not the easiest thing to get hold of or the cheapest thing to get hold of. There are a couple of other things that you can do as well that are just going to make your quality of life while Nalbinding a lot easier. So number one is to use acrylic yarn. Acrylic wool won't wet felt together like natural wool, and unless you're pretty good at splicing, it's probably not going to splice together either, but it does come in a nice variety of colours, usually rather cheaply, and they're usually pretty easy to find. They also come in several different thicknesses as well, so if you don't want to go hunting for natural yarn, acrylic's definitely the way to go. So that leads us on to number two. As I said, this isn't going to wet felt or splice unless you're that good at splicing. So how do you get your first and second bits attached? So you want to leave a little tail on your first piece that you've done. I'm just showing you this with the Oslo stitch. I assume it works the same with other stitches, but I only really know the Oslo stitch at the minute, so that's why I'm showing you this one. Now what we're going to do is knot these together, but you have to get the knot in just the right position because it's not really going to want to pull through these stitches. So what I tend to do is take this off my thumb, line this end up with my tail, pull them down together, and just knot them like that. Then when I put this back on my finger, make sure that the knot is on the left side of your thumb, like so. There we go. And then you can just keep going on as you normally would with the Oslo stitch. What you want to make sure when you're using knots is that they're always going to be on the same side of your yarn. This is so that when your piece is finished, all your knots are either on the inside or the outside, preferably the inside. And you can just snip all these tail ends off and nobody will ever know. Hopefully, unless you know a Nalbinding aficionado who turns around and goes, "Look at all those knots you've got in your Nalbinding." So you can just keep going on as normal and not doing what I'm doing and getting my yarn all muddled up. And I also noticed that I took the wrong stitch off my thumb for that knot. I'm hoping no one else noticed it, but now I've said it, everyone will notice it. So that's one of the easy mistakes you can make while doing the Oslo stitch. Make sure the ends of your knot don't get all mixed in with your stitches. And as you can see, that's going to now work down. So let's say I was going to make a bag out of it. I am actually going to make a bag out of this, but as you can see, this is going to take quite a long time. And so that goes on to my third cheat. If I just take this off, put that to the side. And that's using thick yarn. Now, this is probably pretty extreme, but I absolutely adore this stuff. And using chunky yarn is absolutely fantastic. Not only does it show off the stitch really nicely, I think the Oslo stitch is very pretty, but it's also going to get your job done faster. And if you're making a bag as well, using a chunky thread like this is going to just keep it nice and sturdy, and you're not going to get that many holes in it, if any at all. So this would actually be really fantastic for making a small shoulder bag or a handbag. Maybe not for gloves. I can't really imagine having like that wrapped around my finger. It's going to be a little bit constricting. But if you're doing any projects like bags, hats, that kind of thing, I would definitely go for a chunky yarn if you're not the most patient person and kind of want to get it done as soon as possible. And my last cheat, so number 4, is using these plastic needles. Nail binding needles that are specially made, I've looked for them on Etsy and they can be pretty expensive. Alright, if you can afford them, you can make your own, that kind of thing. But these are basically just those cheap plastic needles that you tend to get in kids' crafts, and they work just as well, especially when they're blunt at the end. They also tend to have bigger eyes than most needles, which is brilliant if you're using a thicker yarn. I mean, I got this easily through this needle. You can also use tapestry needles. Any needle that's a bit blunt and that has a big eye, essentially, is probably going to be cheaper than finding a specific nail binding needle. So I hope you enjoyed this video and found some of it useful, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye!